Welcome into episode 9 of the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. This is going to be our training camp preview. Everything Dallas Cowboys all the time with training camp starting today. Boys, it is football season. Ain't no better time of year, right?
Man, it's great. It's a little too hot for football season, but, man, it's here. I love it.
I thought about this yesterday. It's like we survived. We survived the dead period between end of football and start of football. Let's go.
Every year it seems like there's 6 months where you're just like, can we just get there already,
Wemby kind of helped us get us
a little
through.
bit. A little bit, I think so. Plus, good Rangers and Astros teams always help.
Yeah.
Well, you heard them there. It's the full crew today. Don Harris back. Chuck Minkatinik back from his vacation. Chuck, how was your time off?
It was really great. 3 ballparks in 3 days, a bunch of states,
Play some
lots
golf?
of driving.
Play some golf?
I don't know if I would say playing golf. It was more like work golf, but I had a really good time. Some place called Peevely Farms outside of St. Louis. Very nice track.
What's the best, like, Buc-ee's type place that you visited on your trek?
Buc-ee's is pretty solid. I mean, at least you can count out for clean cans. It's always
Yeah.
important when on the road.
Cleanest bathrooms are about.
Yeah.
And then it's pretty much hit or miss.
Any good grub? Did you guys stop in Kansas City, get any barbecue or anything?
No barbecue in Kansas City. We literally just drove into Kansas City, watched the game, and then drove from Kansas City to St. Louis right after the game. So
It's another
not a
4
lot
hours
of
in
time
the car.
spent, yes, in Kansas City. Although I did get a chance to – I went to 8th grade in Leavenworth, Kansas, and
Oh, yeah.
wanted to go see how that town had aged over the last 45 years, and I must say not well.
That was, of course, when your dad was imprisoned in Leavenworth?
That's correct, yes. He and Mike Vick spending some time in Club Fed. And yeah.
Sorry to everyone.
It was a
in
good year.
Everyone in Leavenworth, Kansas.
Best
tuning out.
of the 3 stadiums, best ballpark grub.
Arlington.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, it's not even close. It's always hot, always warm. They do it really well. St. Louis isn't bad, and Kansas City isn't bad either. But if you're asking which one was the best,
Arlington.
for sure Arlington. Best ballpark experience, St. Louis. And then I'm always partial to Kansas City because that was the first big league ballpark I'd ever been
That's
to.
cool.
I think.
And it's aged well, too.
I
Still
think
got the fountains out there and
Yeah.
Yep,
everything?
and good fans.
architecturally, it's Kansas City. View of the skyline and stuff, St. Louis for sure, because they have it's literally the arch right in the background. It's beautiful. They actually have apartment buildings right there called, like, I think it's Ballpark Apartments.
Yeah.
The top floor is like $25,000 for an apartment there because it literally overviews the stadium. It's ridiculous.
Just like the Tower of the Americas is going to overview center field of the new baseball stadium that sits in the Institute of Texan Culture's lot.
We're not getting off topic here. All right, Don. Let's jump right to it. Above all else, what do you guys think is the most important thing to watch here as we go into Dallas Cowboys training camp starting today?
Man, there's so many. I got a bunch of them that are kind of equal. I'm kind of. This is really weird, but I'm kind of looking at how Dak processes the new play calls from Mac and runs it by himself with all the, he's going to have like 4 or 5 options on every play. And I'm really interested in Jalen Tolbert. I know that's way into the weeds, but we know CeeDee Lamb's going to be great. We know Cooks is fast. We know, Gallup is coming back, and Gallup's going to be really good again, I think. But I think that Tolbert was so bad as a rookie that he has a huge jump to make, and I think from what we're hearing, he might make it. And so I'm kind of looking at that receiving core and Dak. But there's so many that are right there equal with it.
Yeah, and I like what's going on, or not like, it's not the right word. Just the offensive line in general. It seems like for the last, decade or so, it was pretty much plug and play. That was one position, or one grouping, I should say, that you really didn't have to worry about. Now it's, what's the status with Zack Martin? Is Tyron Smith going to stay healthy? Are they going to be moving pieces around? Is Terrence Steele healthy and all the way back? Who's going to be the swing guy? Are these guys starting at one position at the beginning of the season? Do they end up someplace completely different because of attrition? I think there's so many moving parts. I think the Cowboys have done an amazing job in making sure that all these guys can play 2 or 3 spots, but it's just not as much plug and play as we've seen over the last however many years.
True.
For me, it's going to be interesting to see how the Zack Martin stuff unfolds. I told you last night. I think that's a lot bigger of a deal than people are making it out to be. yes, we see veterans hold out all the time because they don't want to participate in the preseason. I don't think that's who Zack Martin is. It's not like an Emmitt Smith situation where he's going to miss the first 2 weeks and then get a big deal. He just wants a little bit more money. The problem with that is you have three people in line and a fourth that needs a restructuring already. So it's going to be, I think the main storyline that I'm interested in seeing play out is how are they going to move around this money with Trayvon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Terrence Steele, and Dak's contract.
Zack Martin will start at guard on opening day. And I think that's the only thing that matters, and I could care less if he participates before then.
But is he going to be making $21 million, or is he taking that money possibly away from another contract?
No, I think they've been pretty clear right now of who they're prioritizing, and they should. They got to prioritize in order: Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, Trayvon Diggs. Parsons is not up yet, but they have to start planning for that. And then Diggs and CeeDee they want to do this summer. Those guys are the future. Zach is a little bit of the past, but he's very much the present. He's been so loyal. He's restructured 5 years in a row. They're not going to make him unhappy. This is just the way they play it, man. Training camp, boy, Chuck, remember all those years in Austin where it seemed like the player would fly into Austin, would be sitting somewhere waiting for Steven to get the deal done, and then he'd be at practice in the afternoon, but he wouldn't be at practice in the morning. Those things never get done till they absolutely have to, because every nickel matters, and the Cowboys are some cap guy is figuring out how much they're going to give Zach. They're going to give Zach his money or some money and work with him. He's been loyal. He's been a loyal soldier. And maybe Zach just wants to miss training camp, because who wants to go to training camp?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting conversation starter, because did we really think Zack Martin was this guy that potentially would not get on the team plane, not do what was asked of him, even position switches at his stage of his career, do it seamlessly, I might add. But yeah, I don't know that I saw him as the guy that's already making roughly $14 million a year, but because there are certain guys making $20 million a year at his spot, that, is he that guy? Is it his agents doing this? Is he realized, look, I have bent over backwards, and the things that I do come at a price. I just never thought Zack Martin was that guy. Who gives a damn? I mean, if you're a regular guy like us, the difference between 14 and 20 million if you want to win, right? I mean, I don't know that I would be that guy, but maybe I would. I just didn't see Zack Martin being that guy.
Well, potentially he's looking at his mortality. He's 32 years old.
Sure.
And he's been the best at his position in football for
long
years.
Time.
And every single year for the last 5 years, he's restructured and given up money to help the team, knowing that he was going to get it on the back end. Well, it's time for him to get it on the back end. And I thought he was, for this year coming up, he was going to make 7.
Yeah, it is. It's a low end year.
Yeah.
He's got I think he has 14 million this year, and he's 7 below Corey Lindstrom and Quentin Nelson.
I think his base is like 1.7 or something.
Yeah,
really
it all came in a signing bonus, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, who knows? They show up today. If Zack Martin's there, maybe it's
Right.
it's 1 o'clock on a Monday, and they show up here this afternoon.
If he's there
like
by tomorrow.
Maybe he's there tonight. We don't know. But I do think it's not nothing. It's to me, it's something.
Oh, it's something. It's something, but they just – we've seen this movie 100 times. We saw it with Emmitt Smith miss the first 2 games.
I don't think
in
this
the Super
is
Bowl.
that, though.
It's not that. But I think he'll be in the lineup on opening night. And, with a guy who's got 8 Pro Bowls and is this many years in, these guys sometimes just want to miss training camp.
Yeah, I mean, and this guy, again, his longevity, I was looking at it last night. He's played 9 years already. He's only missed 8 games. I mean, what a stud.
But you look at what this team needs, and they need that continuity, because that's one of the things they were missing last year is the timing of everything. Part of that had to do with how shuffled up that offensive line was. Didn't know if Tyron Smith was going to come back in December, which he ended up doing. How many games was he going to miss? Tyler Smith was a rookie. Terrence Steele got hurt at the end of the year. Tyler Biotish is a workhorse, but he can only do so much at center. Like, you need, especially on the offensive line, you need everyone to have that month of practice.
And I think he's sending a message to the team like, you guys have taken me for granted, right? Let's say, like, Zack Martin's the one guy we don't have to worry about. We got to sign Smith. We got to do this. We got Terrence Steele. We got all this guy. We got hey, I'm over here. I'm the 9-time Pro Bowler who's been working with you for 5 years in a row to give you money to do all this stuff. Hey, don't forget about me.
It's one of my favorite stats is that he's a 9-time Pro Bowler and has 7 holding calls
In his career.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Let's get to something I got written down here on the rundown. I want you both to finish this sentence. Chuck, we'll start with you. Training camp is successful if
they come out of it healthy. I mean, obviously, you cannot have a season-ending injury to one of your big guys on offense or defense. And I think every year it's the same refrain. Can you survive training camp? Because now, especially with the added game to the NFL season, I mean, it really is a baton death march in terms of how many guys you can keep healthy. Training camp is the last place you want to see anybody go down.
To that point, I was downstairs with you guys last year when Tyron Smith went down, and we were watching the injury, and we're like, oh, that doesn't look that bad. Torn triceps. I mean, you can't get hurt in the training camp. We
James
saw it today.
Washington too.
We saw it today. Naheem Hines for the Bills went down because of a jet ski incident. Like oh my God, you just can't have these things right before the season starts.
Right.
Or the non-contact injury when somebody just tears a knee just doing nothing.
James Washington last year just comes down awkwardly trying to make a catch and.
And those are going to happen. Some of those are going to happen. They can't happen to Parsons, Dak, CD, Pollard, Diggs.
I'd argue Tyron Smith or Zack Martin or Biotish either.
I'm fully planning on Tyron Smith not playing very many games.
Tyler Smith, on the other hand, maybe.
Yeah.
All right, Don, finish that sentence. Training camp is successful if
Micah Parsons is alive. And Micah Parsons and what Chuck said, basically. Micah Parsons, Dak Prescott, those guys are healthy.
All right. Well, let's get to what position group are you guys watching most closely? For me, I think I've made it very clear. I'm watching the offensive line and how they mesh, and I'm watching how Dak meshes with the receivers as well, because it's going to be interesting, that dynamic. But Don, what about you? What position group are you watching most closely as we head into
defensive
the
line? There's been all this talk that Dan Quinn is voodoo doctor this offseason, and Micah Parsons has hinted that, we got some stuff up our sleeves. We might play 4 defensive ends, and they're going to move him all over the place. They drafted a big kid up front. So, it's easy to say, and I already did, that the wide receivers is running backs with Pollard and offensive line with all that plug and play. But to me, I want to see just how creative Dan Quinn gets with all this new athleticism that he has.
Yeah, it's offensive line for me too.
Yeah, I was going to say, Chuck, before we get to you, Todd Archer just tweeted, ESPN reporter for the Cowboys, or Cowboys reporter for ESPN. Zack Martin is not on the Cowboys chartered flight to Oxnard, just FYI. So, offensive line for you as well, Chuck?
Yeah, and I think it's just because I feel like the organization has done everything it can to put itself in the best place possible given how long the season is. I mean, I think I've said this before. When McCarthy was in Green Bay, they enjoyed a lot of health up front, and there wasn't a lot of guys that they had to plug and play and keep moving. I mean, if you can keep that group healthy up front, you look at the teams that are standing at the end of the year, it's usually the teams that have multiple games with guys, the continuity is there, and they played week to week together. However you shorten that up and make it into a quick sentence. But I don't know that the Cowboys had the same group of 5 playing up front all year, more than maybe 2 weeks at a time. I mean, so they've made guys learn other positions to try to counteract some of what's going on. And I'm just fascinated by how many of these guys seem to do it pretty seamlessly in terms of how they were able to adapt.
They all adjusted really well last year, being able to be moved around the offensive line. But in a perfect world, it's Tyron Smith at left tackle, it's Tyler Smith at left guard, Biotish, Zack Martin, Terrence Steele the entire year.
I thought they were talking about using Steele as a non-starter, as like a swing guy.
They might be, but it's going to depend on his health too, how fast he can come back from that injury.
How much money they give him too.
Yeah, right. For you guys, what will prove to be at least the most impactful offseason addition? We had Stephon Gilmore, you had all the rookies, Overshown and Mozzie Smith, and then you had Brandon Cooks on the offensive side, also losing Dalton Schultz, getting Schoonmaker. For you guys, one player who's going to make the biggest impact for the Cowboys?
To me, Brandon Cooks, I mean, watch this guy play a lot. You know, I think there was a curiosity factor early on in his career. Why is this guy switching teams so often? And he's just been that guy that other teams have coveted. I mean, it's certainly not because of his mental makeup, his social makeup in terms of his ability to communicate and make others better in the room, be a good teammate. This guy's really, really good. And, you know, I went to 3 OTAs and a mini camp, and I'm not 100% convinced that 13's all the way back. So I think that, you know, I think Brandon Cooks might end up being the number 2 guy at receiver, and then we'll see what happens with Gallup if he can come all the way back. But I'm not convinced that he's the same guy that he was before the injury. Not yet.
And I think you're exactly right. And I think getting Cooks is the Cowboys' way of saying exactly that. They don't think Gallup's all the way back either, no matter what they say. I think they're hoping that Tolbert really asserts himself. And I was going to say the exact same thing. His speed, Cooks' speed, is something that Dak was, you know, his eyes were opened in the OTAs and the minicamp. I think he's really looking forward to having that kind of deep threat. So
I think it's going to be interesting who fills that Noah Brown role as well. The kind of third down role, someone who can just get open, and I think that can be Michael Gallup. I have another question written down here. It's who has the most to prove, and I think it's Gallup. Gallup has to prove that he's worth the money, and he has to prove he's worth more money than he's making right now. He flopped last year. I think we all chalk that up to not being 100% from the injury. But if he flops again this year, his days as a Cowboy are done.
100%. I mean, there is a lot to prove there. You hope that the injury isn't the reason that it would come to something like that, but you know, it's a fickle game. I mean, it's literally second to second with these guys, and you know, everybody's pulling for Michael Gallup. I think if you're a Cowboy fan, because he's such a great person, he's such a great ball player before he got hurt, and he had moments last year, but it's the rigors of the 18-week season. It's a long year, and you know, again, I'm pulling for him. I just didn't see it earlier this year with my own 2 eyes.
And will he get enough looks his way with what we're hearing about CD and just how unbelievable his growth has been? I mean, they're talking like CD Lamb as being, you know, one of the best players in the league.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you guys mean with the Brandon Cooks thing maybe being the most impactful. I think it's the other big addition that they made, though, in Stephon Gilmore. If Stephon Gilmore can be 90% of what he was at his peak, that makes quarterbacks have to look at Trayvon Diggs. And the best and worst parts about Trayvon Diggs is that he goes to make plays. If he can maybe get some more looks, maybe he'll make a few more plays. Maybe that's a couple more interceptions, a couple more pick sixes that gets the offense back on the field. That's just me, though. I think Stephon Gilmore is going to be a huge impact on that team.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's on the back end of his talent level. But
I mean, they need 1 or 2 good years from him.
Yeah, one.
Yeah,
right.
one really.
Yep.
What storyline that we're coming into this training camp do you guys think is much ado about nothing? We got a lot of them. We got Pollard, you got Dak, you got Zach, you got the re-signings, you got all the things we've already talked about. What do you guys think is kind of much ado about nothing as we come in? Or do you?
You know, I think Zack Martin, I think he's going to be fine, like I said earlier. That'd be one. 1A for me would be this huge over-amplification of the Mike McCarthy calling the plays. I think we're going to see a lot of the same stuff. We're just going to see smarter calls in critical situations where Kellen was a little guilty of junking it up and being frivolous in big key situations where I think McCarthy wanted to give him the rein to make those calls, but it was probably listening in the headset going, oh, what are we doing? And I think that's why he ran him off. And I think they're going to be a little more responsible in that situation.
I think for me, it's Dak has got to cut down his interceptions. I think he will. I mean, I think this is going to be an offense that's more tailored towards what suits Dak best. And, you know, just looking at the interceptions last year, I mean, there was a good number of those that were tip balls and, you know, guys dropping balls that were right in his hands. And, you know, certainly he's the quarterback. He throws the ball. And I'm not saying every time he threw an interception it wasn't his fault. Clearly, you know, some of them were. But I just think that it was an anomaly year given his track record of protecting the football. So I think that'll be a storyline that hopefully will quell here pretty quickly.
I think he's made it pretty clear that's not going to happen. And I think he got a good sense of that in the OTAs.
They both go together, both of those points. I mean, I think if McCarthy's play calling's fine, then Dak's not going to probably turn the ball over. And if he does, then that's a Dak problem. It's not a McCarthy problem. But I agree. I think the McCarthy calling the plays is a little bit overhyped. People change play callers all the time. I think the Chiefs have Andy Reid, but they've changed they're going into a different offensive coordinator as well, as much as Andy Reid's involved in the offense. The Eagles, they're changing offensive coordinators as well. Play caller might be the same, but in Nick Sirianni, but things change. And I think that McCarthy has the wherewithal, the knowledge, the experience to make that change, and he'll be fine. I talked about my player that I think has the most improved. Do you guys agree it's Michael Gallup, or do you have someone else in mind?
I'm good with that.
I'm good with that too.
All right. You guys are making it easy on me today. Tony Pollard, it has been a storyline as well. This is going to be the first training camp, in 7 years, coming into 8, without Ezekiel Elliott. Tony Pollard now the unquestioned number 1 back. You got guys backing him up like Deuce Vaughn, Rojo, Ronald Jones, and Malik Davis. I am concerned that Tony Pollard can't is going to wear down and can't withstand 25 touches a game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair, but will he get those? I mean, especially during the regular season. I mean, if he goes from 12 carries a game to 15 carries a game and then maybe gets one more catch, I mean, I think that's kind of what you're looking at least during the regular season. Now, once the playoffs start, that's going to totally change. I mean, I think you got to ride your best players once the playoffs start, but I think they're going to spread it around as much as they can. They're going to be very judicious. I mean, again, this guy plays a whole year, looks great, and then in the playoffs he gets tackled from behind and then suffers a nasty injury. I mean, that's what you're looking at every time a guy touches the ball, right? So I don't think there's going to be like this monumental push to get him 10 more carries a game. I mean, it's just guys aren't built to take that kind of punishment anymore, that many weeks. I mean, they're going to be judicious with what they give him, and I think it's just going to be a matter of 2 or 3 carries more per game than what he got last year.
And it's not, Zeke was the number 1 back last year. How many more touches did he get than Pollard?
Not many.
I don't think so I'm not sure Pollard gets that much more than the combination of Davis, Jones, and Vaughn. I think the way they're going to use him is the way they've used him. He's tougher than people think. He's better in the trenches than people think just because he's undersized. And I think if it's 3rd and goal from the 1, dude, I like Malik Davis too. He runs hard and he's got a little more size. I think they'll spread it around. I don't see Tony. He's not going to be Earl Campbell. He's not going to get 35 carries a game.
Zeke got approximately 3 more touches a game than Pollard did.
Yeah.
Zeke got 15 and Pollard got 12-ish.
I can see Pollard with 15 or 16, and these other guys combined 12.
I think they're going to treat Malik Davis as they did Tony Pollard last year and make him the number 2. We've seen Rojo get benched in 3 separate teams now. I think he got benched with the Chiefs and the Bucs both. So I don't expect a lot out of Ronald Jones this year. I think Deuce Vaughn and Malik Davis will have a big impact, and
I like Davis
potentially take over for Pollard next year, because we know that running backs don't make any money, and Pollard's going to want some money after this year.
Not only don't make any money given what they do, but they don't get jobs either. I mean, This is a really weird time for these guys.
2.65 years is the average career of the running back. It's the lowest of any position.
Yeah, we don't have enough time on the pod to discuss all the problems with the running back position in that landscape, as they just went through their own Zoom this weekend, coordinated by Austin Eckler. But all right, last thing I got on here is Jerry Jones going to get a deal done with Trayvon, CD, and Terrence Steele? And if so, who's the most important of those 3?
If you're asking me who the most important is, I'll say CD Lamb. And I think his ceiling we haven't seen yet. I don't think Trayvon Diggs will ever have the rest of his career the numbers that he had 2 years ago. I think that was flukish in some ways. I mean, he's a great player on the ball, but those interception numbers were just insane. I think CD Lamb is going to be best player on the team other than Parsons going forward. So I think they got to lock him up. I think he's the priority. I think they do get these done.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if they get all three of them done. I mean, again, they've been really good playing with the math every year, kicking the can down the road. You know, we'll worry about this 5 years from now and start worrying about restructuring and all those kinds of things. Yeah, I think CD, obviously, I mean, given what we don't know about Pollard coming back, I mean, obviously he's going to be the focal point on a lot of teams, the opposition, I mean, to try to stop the Cowboys offense. And then I think Terrence Steele, just because, you know, you're not going to pay him $85 gazillion a year like you're going to have to pay these other guys. And then, you know, Trayvon, he sure does make plays. That's what separates him from 95% of the other DBs in the league. But are you getting other things from him too? So it's going to be interesting to see how the math works out for him. You know, what is he truly worth? I'm not a math guy amongst many other things. But, you know, I would think it'd be CD 1, Trayvon 2, Terrence Steele 3. But maybe you could flip Terrence because I think Terrence would be easier to sign than Trayvon Diggs.
I agree with you guys mostly, but the reason for CD is because I would want to lock him up now because I think he's going to have a monster year.
Yeah,
he's going to have a ridiculous season. I will be drafting him in the second round of my fantasy drafts.
Does he have any reason to not want it to get it done, to like bet on himself?
I wouldn't get it. I was just about to say that. If I was CD Lamb, I wouldn't want a contract right now. I would want to wait till after this year because I think with Brandon Cooks now in tow, that takes some of the coverage away because you have to cover over top. He's going to be wide open for those 15, 17-yard digs over the middle, and he's going to have plenty of room to work with. So if I was CD Lamb, I wouldn't even want to re-sign right now. I'd want to wait till next offseason because you never know who else is going to sign. I mean, I think Devontae Adams is making the most money right now for a receiver. Jay Jettas is going to get some too. So I would want to wait until those guys get theirs and then be like, give me $1 million on top of whatever the most highest paid guy is getting, and that's what I'll take, especially after he has 130 catches this year.
Yeah, you can let somebody else set the market.
Exactly. Yeah. Anything else from you guys as we go into training camp? We got football season starting right now. 7 weeks, I believe, until opening night.
It's hard to believe, right? I'm just, like I said, I'm just glad it's here. I mean, it is a huge void. I think we've all done a better job of making football a 12-month-a-year sport, but there's nothing like practice. There's nothing like this time of year where, you know, to beat a dead horse, hope springs eternal for every team in the league. And doesn't matter just at the pro level. I mean, it's college and high school too. You know, so it's just a fun time of year, and it's fun to tell these kinds of stories this time of year, and you kind of get to know these guys and then ride the whole season, the whole story that's going to play out, and, you know, you hope you're there at the beginning so that you can write a really nice story at the end.
I'm not going to, but I'm tempted to buy the Cowboys as a contender. You know, they always trick you in the offseason. Oh, look at Zeke and Cabo. He's in shape. Oh, they found the secret sauce now that McCarthy's calling the plays. And it's a sales job by Jerry Jones, and he's just hoodwinking us, right? Every year. So I gave up a couple years. I'm not buying it. They're going 8-8. But this year, something is getting me to buy stock in them, man.
I'll tell you what, this team could go 13-4, beat the Eagles twice, and win the division by 3 games. If they don't make it to the conference championship game, it's a failed season.
I'm with you. I mean, at some point you got to make a move, right? This is, you know, we've been under the McCarthy era here long enough. It would appear that they've got talent at every place on the field. You know, I know the division's tough. I know the league is tough, you know, and you need some breaks. You need some good fortune, but I'm with you. If it's still second round and out and really an embarrassing performance by the offense in that second round bow out, I mean, if you can't prove that you're one of the best teams in the league, and I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if that means Super Bowl or bust, but, you know, at least if you're going to get to the second round, you're talking about a possession here or a turnover here, something that makes you look like they're making a leap forward.
I don't think it's Super Bowl or bust, but I do think it's like you got to win at least a playoff game, and I think it's disappointing. It's a disappointing season if they don't win at least 11 for me.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it looks like on paper.
It's gonna be an interesting year. It always is with the Cowboys.
Till Dak throws a pick 6 with 2 minutes to go in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, he's gonna throw his fair share. We talked about it last week.
I was leaving here in a good mood. Now all of a sudden it's like,
unless he throws it against your Packers, right?
I don't think we have to worry about them this postseason. It won't happen.
You're not feeling the love?
No, so to speak. I'm kind of glad where they're at. I mean, it's good. They're young. They're trying something different. It was time. They should have done what they did well over a year ago.
Do you root for the Jets?
I'm not pulling against the guy. I mean, he won a lot of ball games for us. So,
that's fair.
I think it's like anything else. I mean, I'm at the point in my life where it's less about the logo and it's more about the dudes, and that's why it's hard to hate the Cowboys. They got a good room.
Shouldn't we do at least 30 seconds on the Titans ripping off the Oilers throwbacks? I love it. Everybody's mad. All
those are great.
People are mad.
I thought you were going to be mad about
They
those.
shouldn't be wearing the Oilers throwbacks.
Why?
Why not?
Why not?
That Love You Blues are beautiful.
Yeah,
that's like OKC getting yelled at for wearing the Seattle Supersonics throwbacks.
It's a little different though. When they moved to Nashville, they wore those uniforms 2 years before they changed their name, and they embraced their old culture.
They're sexy uniforms. I'm telling you.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. Can't go wrong with baby blue, baby.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we can all agree that Broncos country. Let's ride. We will be back on Thursday with a report from our Cowboys reporter, Zach Hedrick. They have made landfall in Oxnard as well.
Cowboys are running late, by the way.
Cowboys are running late.
Yeah.
One thing I know for sure, Jack Green does not run late. So we know they're there. He'll be getting us all the details, as well as Chuck and Don. They'll be back on Thursday as well. Please download, subscribe, rate, review, unsubscribe, resubscribe, re-rate, re-review, give us a 5-star rating, give us some feedback. Helps us out a lot. Feedback is a gift. Until then, thank you so much for listening to the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. We'll see you on Thursday.